Working in the real estate industry for the last decade, I've noticed a pattern. There's always a reason why the property market is going to crash this year, and the media loves talking about it. Sometimes it's a bubble. Sometimes it's the elections. Sometimes it's the Banking Royal Commission. Sometimes it's obviously the lockdown and the mortgage freeze that we had the last couple of years and so forth. Next year's juicy topic is the upcoming recession. Will we have a recession? No one knows. Regardless of whether we have a recession or not, there is money to be made in any market. Serious property investors focus on what they can control. They put measures in place to protect themselves from headwinds. So what's really important for you today is to consider the steps that you need to take in order to build wealth in 2023 onwards. Hi, my name is Roy and welcome to my channel, Roy Talks Property. On this channel, we discuss everything related to property investing, property finance, and the different strategies available for you today to build wealth through property. So if that's of interest, make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon so you can get notified every time we upload a video. Your support is greatly appreciated. Before we discuss how to build wealth through a recession, it's important to understand what happened to the property market in the last 4 recessions. Since the end of World War II, we had 4 recessions. The 1970s recession, the 1980s recession, the 1990s recession, and the 2008 to 2009 recession, which is called the GFC that we all know about. Now, most average landlords believe that in a recession, the property market goes backwards and that there is no money to be made in the property market or any market whatsoever. So what we need to do is we need to look at how did the property market fare or perform in the last 4 recessions, and then we can make up our mind if there's money to be made in property or not. So I've put together this video and I'm focusing on the mother of all capital cities in Australia. I'm looking at Sydney and how Sydney performed in the last few recessions. So if we look at 1973 to 1975 recession, the median house price in 1973 was $27,500. Fast forward to 1974, we had a 16% capital growth halfway through the recession. And the median price increased from 27,000 and some change up to 32,000. So it's safe to say that a lot of people made money in Sydney during the first year of the recession. And interestingly, we had another 6% growth in the second year of the recession, where the median house price increased from 32,000 to 34,000. Now let's look at 1980 to 1982 recession, or the 1980s recession. In the first year, we had a median house price of around 70,000, and we had a 13% growth in Sydney in the first year. Who said that you can't make money during a recession? And then in the second year, we had, or it stagnated to 79,000 and a half. Interestingly, between 1970s recession and 1980s recession, we had a 153% capital growth or increase in the median price in Sydney in that time period. So real estate is always long term. So let's have a look at 1990s to 1992 recession. In 1990, the median house price in Sydney was 192,000. In 1991, we had a dip. So Sydney didn't do very well in the early 1990s, and we saw a decline of 5% in the first year, and then it stagnated in the second year. So we saw a decline from 192,000 to 183,000 by the end of the recession, which is about a 5% decline. But again, between the 1980s recession and the 1990s recession, we saw a 175% increase. Let's look at 2008 to 2009. At 2007, the median house price in Sydney was 513,000. In the first year of the recession in 2008, we saw a 4.6% decline in the median house price in Sydney, and then it increased by 2%. So roughly we could say that Sydney lost about 2-3% in median house price in the GFC. But again, between the 1990s recession and the 2008 recession, we saw a 167% increase. Now I know I only talked about Sydney, and there's a reason for that, because now I want to show you at the times where Sydney declined, which markets in Australia made money? Because the point that we're trying to prove here is that there is money to be made in Australia because there are many different markets in this country. So when Sydney had a 5% decline back in 1991, Canberra had a 14% increase. And when Sydney stagnated in 1992, Canberra had a 13% increase, Brisbane had a 7.5% increase, Darwin had a 14% increase, Adelaide 3.7%, and Hobart 6.6%. Fast forward to the 2008 recession, when Sydney declined by 5%, Darwin had a 7.1% growth, Brisbane had a 4.8% growth, Melbourne 4.1%, and Adelaide 6.6%. Similarly, in 2009, when Sydney relatively stagnated or had a very little to no growth at 2.6%, Darwin had a 13% growth, Brisbane had 4.6%, Melbourne had 9.5%, and Adelaide had 2.7%. So clearly, there are different markets in Australia, and then our job is to help you find those markets. So as I've mentioned previously, there are over 200 property markets in Australia. Which one works for you? That is yet to be determined. If you want to find out, click on one of the links below to book a master strategy with me. But serious property investors appreciate that there is money to be made in any market. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you or put a link for another video for you to go and watch, which would help you identify where the attention is shifting to in 2023 and what markets you need to be positioning yourself in. So based on the data that we looked at earlier, we've now proven that a recession does not necessarily mean that the property market is going to crash. There are over 200 markets, each state has multiple markets in it and so forth. So the question you need to be asking is, what steps are you taking today in order to build wealth and do well in 2023 if we do end up getting into a recession? So step number one that I want to talk to you about is build your bargain buying fund. So some of you might be wondering, what do I mean by that? Now, I'm not talking about having an emergency fund, because I believe that if you're watching this video, then you're financially literate and understand that when you invest, or when it comes to investing, you need to have an emergency fund. So I'm not talking about that. In my day-to-day life, I talk to a lot of real estate agents, mortgage brokers, buyers, sellers, etc. And one thing that is very noticeable, there is a lot of fear in the market. And that means it's time for you to go shopping, okay? That is why what I'm doing is I'm building my bargain buying fund. And I want to make sure that I have those funds available at my disposal at any given time in case I come across a bargain and I want to buy it. At Buyers Club, our buyers agency, we are capitalizing on this fear more than ever. We're sourcing opportunities to our clients at significantly below market value, and our clients are able to buy these properties at a discount, tens of thousands of dollars, and that means they're able to create equity from day one. This equity that is created will allow our clients to build their portfolio a lot more aggressively and build wealth quicker. Again, if you want to find out about how we do that, feel free to get in touch, send me an email or book a phone call with me, more than happy to chat. And bargain hunting or shopping doesn't necessarily just include property. You know, I love collecting watches. If I see a great opportunity to buy a luxury watch at a 30-40% discount, I'm definitely going to jump on it. You could be someone who loves luxury fashion. You could be someone who's very interested in owning a portfolio of small businesses. You could acquire multiple businesses in 2023, or you could invest in real estate and then use that equity to buy a business that is established and so forth. Step number 2, refinance and cash out equity. It costs you nothing to do this exercise. The broker does not charge you anything at all. The bank doesn't charge you anything at all, and the valuations are usually free of charge. So you don't want to miss out on this opportunity to organize your finance and get on the front foot to build wealth in 2023. Depending on the equity available in your property, it'd be very wise for you to get in touch with that broker and consider refinancing or going to a different lender and so forth. There are many benefits to doing that. So benefit number 1, as we probably all know, rates have recently increased. If you refinance, you could shop around for a sharper rate. This is going to reduce your monthly repayments it's going to improve your cash flow, and it's going to put more funds in your pocket at the end of the month. These funds can be used to increase your savings or bolster your bargain buying fund. Benefit number 2, as we've seen in the table below, prices in Sydney and Melbourne tend to decline in a recession, especially the last 2 recessions. So what you want to do is you want to pull out as much equity as you can from the properties that you own in those markets before they decline further in value, then before you can pull out less cash. The ideal scenario is to pull out as much cash as possible and just park it in an offset account or a redraw facility and so forth, and just wait until you're ready to buy your next property or your next bargain, whatever that may look like. Now, some property owners don't have much equity, so be careful not to pull out too much equity because you might end up in a negative equity position, and that's not really fun to be in. Speaking of fun, let's talk about step 3. And step 3 is actually have fun. I'm not talking about playing sports or video games. I'm talking about finding ways for you to have fun in the process of making money. By enjoying the process of earning more money, you will always be on the lookout for more opportunities. For example, you could like flipping furniture, cars, motorbikes, watches, luxury purses, and so on. You could invest a few $1,000s into purchasing a product from overseas and then sell it in the local market. Maybe you've got a close mate, you could start a business together that, a bit of a side hustle over the weekend. By having fun in the process of making money, what you do is you build what I call financial stamina. I remember when I first bought my first investment property, when it came out for me to transfer the 10% deposit from my bank account to the solicitor's bank account, I freaked out. Okay, thinking about it now, I get goosebumps. And 10 years later, I just do it when I want to buy a property or whatever the situation is, because I built that financial stamina and I'm able to make quick decisions, especially when it comes to good investment opportunities, which I think we can all agree on are going to be presenting themselves in 2023. Step number 4, your network is your net worth. I think you've heard this many, many times. What I want to have a chat with you about, though, is a different perspective. We all have a job, a 9 to 5, whatever the situation is. Now, some people love to get their hands dirty and do the work themselves. Others prefer to delegate and hire professionals to offer their services and so forth. Now, your situation in life could dictate how you do things. Some people have families, they need to spend time with their families over the weekend. Others don't have families, so they got more time to get their hands dirty and do a lot of DIY stuff. So regardless of your preference and your situation, I think we can all agree on the reality. Reality is, if I do a certain job 24/7, I will definitely do a better job than someone who is doing it part-time, simply because I'm investing more resources into this job. To give you an example of how important that is, between 2020 and 2021, the average property investor across the country made 20 to 40, 50% capital growth. Property investors who engaged Buyers Club and hired our services saw a 50 to 100% capital growth instead of 20 to 40. And the reason they were able to do that, not because they're smarter than the other investor, it's only because they have leveraged the access that we have to find better opportunities. But if you are adamant that you don't want to hire someone, then you need to at least have a good team that is more than happy to educate you, mentor you, and give you data and resources to make educated decisions. For example, your broker should be on your speed dial. If you want to invest in a certain market, you should know all the local real estate agents and they should know your name. If you have a few mates that have invested in property before, you need to get in touch with them and learn about the challenges, what motivated them, what scared them, etc., and surround yourself by people who are a few levels above you. So if you decide that you want to hire a buyer's agent, drop me an email or click one of the links below to get in touch, and we'd be more than happy to help. Step number 5. Avoid instant gratification by thinking long-term. I've seen it far too many times when I meet new clients. On the surface, they look like they're doing great. They have a high-paying job, they have decent savings, but when we get to the nitty-gritty part, they have nothing to their name except expensive jewelry, expensive cars, expensive holidays, expensive hobbies, and so forth. And that could be very tempting. You know, it's very easy to chase instant gratification. We have some cash lying around. I've been guilty of it before. But what is the opportunity cost? What is that holiday going to cost you in 5 to 7 years? There's nothing wrong with chasing gratification as long as you have the right foundation first. The most basic foundation includes a few properties under your belt, maybe some shares, a couple of different income streams. If you focus on achieving those goals, over the next 5 to 7 years, you are going to be in much better position, and you're going to be very happy that you took those steps in 2023. So instead of you chasing the instant gratification, try and shift the focus from being happy or satisfied now to making sure that 35-year-old you or 40-year-old you or 30-year-old you in the future is going to be happy. Step number 6, investments that cover the holding cost. The last few years have been relatively forgiving for average landlords. And I've mentioned to you before many times, I started this channel because I want to make sure that you don't end up being an average landlord, because that's not really cool. It's not very hard to buy one investment property or two. We want to make sure that you become a serious property investor. And if you want to become a serious property investor, make sure you subscribe and follow my channel. But having said that, it's important moving forward that the foundation that we mentioned in step 5 is self-sustaining, or it covers its holding cost. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh,
if you have a property that's going to generate $50 to $100, then you're going to create wealth and your lifestyle is going to be amazing and so on.
The reality is $100 does not make a huge difference. $200 doesn't make a huge difference, and so forth. What's going to make a difference is that you're able to hold on to your properties long term. And to be able to do that, you need self-sustaining investments, but you also need capital growth backing up those investments. Your wealth comes from capital growth. It doesn't come from cash flow. Cash flow is for holding the property, and that's mainly it. If you want to find out more about how Buyers Club targets the markets that give you the balance between those cash flows and capital growth, then drop me an email, book a phone call with me, and I'll be more than happy to chat. If you're unsure about investing in 2023 and the negative sentiment is really getting into you, make sure you check out this video. Thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, if you've received any value, please like the actual video and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate that, and I'll talk to you soon.